Back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. My next guest went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 with the Patriots, played for both Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, was a great linebacker for the Patriots alongside with Willie McGinnis, Mike Vrabel, and Teddy Bruschi, and that's number 52, Ted Johnson. Ted, Zach Gelb here. How are you?
Hey, Zach. I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great myself. I know you had some struggles post-retirement. I've been down on Radio Row. I talked to Ray Lucas and Sean Salisbury, who now team up with the Past organization. You hear the national stories of a Junior Seau and a Mike Webster. How are you from a health standpoint? Everything okay with you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm doing great, Zach. It was a long road for me to get to this point where I'm at, being healthy, mind, body, soul, if you will. I had to go a lot of different doctors. I had try a lot of different things, and I finally kind of figured out what I would call my blueprint for success. So I'm happy to say I'm doing great right now. Thanks.
You go from being a superstar with the Patriots, winning 3 Super Bowls, being part of a dynasty, and then you go just to being a regular guy in retirement. How tough is that transition from going to player into retirement?
Well, it is tough, but I'll tell you what, I wasn't a guy. A lot of guys, Zach, what they do is, they're preparing for life after football while they're playing. Well, I wasn't talented enough to be that way, if you know what I mean. I was concentrating more on just my profession and my craft than I was, kind of preparing myself for life after. Probably part of the problem is, I'd say, is that what happens is after guys are done, people around you don't necessarily know how to identify you with anymore because you're not the NFL player anymore. You're, quote unquote, you're just a guy, you're a retired guy. And so a lot of guys personalize that. As far as you think, a lot of us, have this, kind of overpowering self-esteem and this crazy self-belief in ourselves. Who we do, a lot of guys, but it's mostly tailored to playing football. The real world stuff, let's face it, you get drafted. I got drafted in '95, so 22 years old. I started playing football. It's not real world. It's fantasy world. It's basically, you have off season and you have season. And so when life is over, you have all these things that you never even thought about, never had to deal with, that are very true, harsh realities. And so it's very difficult for some guys. I went through it initially. I thought I was smarter than that. I thought I'd have it figured out, but I didn't. But that's the way it is. I learned, I figured, a lot of my, best lessons for me are learned at my own expense. So I had to go through some tough times, but I figured it out, and I've turned it around.
The attention at player safety right now in the NFL is at an all-time apex. You see an abundance of lawsuit to the NFL. You saw everything that happened with Bountygate. And then you see a situation like what happened down in Washington this past weekend. The Redskins lose their playoff game. Some people question if RG3 should have been in the game, if he shouldn't have been. What's your take on RG3 and Mike Shanahan playing his quarterback? I personally have no problem with it. He was cleared by the doctors. Therefore, I thought he should be playing in the game.
Yeah, well, I'm going to disagree with you. I say shame on Mike Shanahan. Quite honestly, I was in a position, where a coach kind of, abused the system, if you will, put me in a situation going against doctor's orders. I get that, maybe Mike Shanahan asked RG3 if he was okay, and RG3 said yes. Well, that's crazy because he was doing further damage. I think the reports are now that he actually did further damage by playing in that game. So if Mike Shanahan is okay with that, he says, when he says, look, we didn't risk, we wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize his health. Well, that's bullcrap because he absolutely jeopardized his health by keeping him out there. And here's the problem. Here's the crux of the issue right here, Zach, is that football is unique to all the other sports, all the major sports. And here's why, okay? It's because we don't have guaranteed contracts. The only guarantee is in the form of a signing bonus that usually averages about 20%. But for the most part, we're singing for our supper, okay? So that being the power structure the way it is a coach's league. It is not a player's league. It's a coach's league, okay? So in basketball, when, what's his name where was he at? Howard. Dwight Howard. He can get Stan Van Gundy fired because it's a players' league. Football, we take orders, we do what the coach says, and that's just the way it is. We don't question it. And so, RG3 was being a good soldier. He was following orders. He was doing what the coach said, but at what expense? Here's the thing. Coaches can coach forever. Players, on average, play about 3.5 years, And so our bodies are our commodities. What we sell is our body, and we need our bodies healthy for us to make a living. So when we don't have a healthy body, it's hard to make a living. So that's the crux of it, and that being kind of how I see this through that prism, I have an issue with it.
Let's just say, because this is the toughest part, when a doctor says you're okay to go, the coach says you're okay to go, sometimes the player just has to say, I'm not ready to go. Let's say you're 23, Ted Johnson's playing linebacker for the Patriots in a playoff game. The coach says you could go, the doctor says you could go, but you know your knee is not at 100%. Would you ever go up to Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick and say, hey, I'm not good to go, I can't play in this game?
That would be tough. That would be tough. Now, you hope to think that, and I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about this specific issue, I thought Dr. Andrews said that he didn't clear him to play, at least the first time around. So there's some gray area there. I'd like to know the whole truth of that story. But that would be a difficult thing. There's no question. I think part of it is who is the guy? Because trust me, not every football player is created equal. You have bubble guys, you have fringe guys, and then you have franchise players. Here's the issue, is that we all buy, as players, into the propaganda, that we are bigger than life, that we are gladiators, that we're tougher than. Listen to me, okay? Listen. You play in the NFL, you're tough, period.
No doubt about it.
Okay, if you're out there showing everybody you can play through pain, and you're not even pain. If you're injured and you're playing through an injury, that's stupid. There's a difference between brave and being heroic and courageous and just plain out stupid. If you're a player in the NFL, I give it up to them, okay? You're a tough guy. You don't need to be walking around on torn ligaments to prove to me that you're a tough guy. So that's kind of how I look at that.
We're talking to Ted Johnson. And, Ted, anytime anyone asks me the question, does the football player deserve the money, I say absolutely 110%. And I also say the guys in the game right now, when you had that whole lockout mess, should be taking care of those guys that are retired, because one day those current players right now are going to be retired, and they're going to need some money if they don't put the money in the bank. Like, you look at some of these guys that laid the foundation for football. A perfect example, like a Mike Webster, he basically died because he didn't have any money. He died on the streets. It's time for these players in the game now to take care of the guys that really laid the way for the NFL.
And I think that's happening, Zach. I think it's a process. I agree. The tough deal, the absolute tough deal with that is I was a player rep for 3 terms in New England, so for 6 years. And the hard sell is telling rookies, hey, we have this pie, okay, and they're giving us all this money. And we have to decide how we want to divvy it up. I forget what the DGR was. I don't know if it was 60% or whatever, or 63% at the time before this current CBA. And it was like, hey, guys, we're going to give you 63%. You divvy up however you want. Well, when we go to, the younger guys or the current players and say, hey, we want to give money to we want to take money out of your salary and give it to the older guys, it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. But inevitably, guys, after they're done playing, they always have an issue with the current guys because they won't give them money. Well, they were in that same boat, too. They were in that same boat, and they could have given to the guys before, to them before them as well, and they didn't. But I think there's a lot of pressure now, more media attention now being put on kind of all the things that are happening with retired players. And I think the union, I really do, I think they're doing a better job of bringing that and educating the current players and say, hey, look, guys, this is going to be you someday. We need to take care of these guys.
If you had to give me an estimation, how many games do you think you played in that you shouldn't have played in?
Oh, that's a good question. I retired because of concussions. I couldn't do it anymore. I played through a lot of concussions. The problem was I didn't know I was doing any long-term damage to myself, okay? So one of the things, I'm a guy that is involved in that lawsuit. I retired. My particular cases, I retired because of head trauma. I had 1 year left on my contract. I didn't retire, because of a knee or a hip, or I didn't get cut and then jump into this thing. I retired specifically for head trauma. I got a lot of my concussions. I got most of mine 2 or 3 a week on average for the last 3 years of my career. Because whenever I got my bell rung or I got dinged, those are 2 very common phrases they say in football. We know now, we didn't know it then, but we know now that is considered a concussion. And those little concussions, there's not even a sliding scale. A concussion is a concussion. There isn't a major one. There isn't a minor one. They're all created equal in a sense. And I was doing, potentially damage to my brain and didn't realize it. they're now finding that there is a link between multiple concussions and a brain disease called CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So it's a very real deal. So when people say, hey, Ted, you know what you're doing, man. Come on, you know you could be doing serious harm to your body. Yeah, I did, but to a point. I did not know that I could be actually giving myself brain disease by banging my head into the wall. I did not know that. Now, look, all I asked for was the information then, and then let me make the educated decision on whether I wanted to do it. But we didn't have that information now, or at least they knew it and didn't share it with us, so I kept playing.
You were a unique player. I always remember watching you, and the hits that you would put on quarterbacks and running back were absolutely ridiculous, and you'd always bring a sense of excitement amongst the fan base. But the reason you were so unique was that you played for both Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. Who was the tougher coach to play for?
Oh, man, great question. I would say they're both different, and they're both the same in the sense that they have they want the best out of you. I'd say the difference between Coach Parcells and Bill Belichick is there's without question a clear kind of a sense that Parcells had an emotional investment in seeing you perform well. He drafted me. He started me in my rookie year. He gave me my shot. I was, quote unquote, probably one of his guys, which was always awesome to feel that way. If you were a guy that did the best with what God gave you, is how he said, whatever you can do to maximize your talent, he appreciated that. And I responded better to that. That was my style of coaching that I liked. Bill Belichick, on the other hand, was more emotionless. We were like chess pieces, and he wasn't as emotionally invested in seeing you do well. He wasn't a team, and so you had to buy into that. It was a totally different way of looking at things. You had to, as a player, kind of lose your sense of self and just realize, look, you might not be, get your arm put around you and actually, be interested in, your family, that kind of stuff, if you're willing to, take these Super Bowl rings. Well, all the guys I played with, all the guys you mentioned on the intro, and Brewski and Braves and Willie McGinnis and, Ty Law and Rodney Harrison, Tom Brady, all those guys, we all bought into that. And we realized at the end of the day, it was a lot more fun, winning Super Bowl championships than, having a coach that asked us about our family life.
Zach Gelb here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station, talking to Ted Johnson, former New England Patriot, now a radio superstar down in Houston. Let's get to the game. Patriots play the Texans this week, Sunday, 4:30. It's the playoffs. We all know what happened last time the Texans came into Gillette Stadium. They said that this was the biggest game in their franchise history, and they fell right flat on their faces. What's the feel in Houston? Do they think they have a chance to win this game amongst the fan base?
Not really, no. Quite honest with you. I mean, but who cares what we think? Who cares what the media thinks? Who cares what the fans think? As long as the players, find a way to, feel like they can win this game, that's all that matters. But I think let's face it, guys, the Texans haven't played well really since that December 10th game. I mean, they beat the Bengals last week, but, the defense was phenomenal. I get that, but Matt Schaub still threw a costly pick six. The offense sputtered in the red zone. They got the running game going, but, again, it wasn't a just, dominating performance. They kind of eked out a win, if you will. I mean, heck, the Bengals are pretty much in that game well into the fourth quarter, so it was really too close to comfort. If they play that exact same game, they'll get throttled again in New England. So I'm trying to find ways, like, what's the silver lining here? Well, they haven't really played well. They had a chance, okay? They had a chance that in the last two games of the regular season to get home field advantage, the #1 seed against the Vikings and against the Colts, and lost both of those times. All right, and that's not getting it done. It's really sad because they put themselves in such a great position to get that. They should be, if they had handled their business, they should be playing the Ravens at home this weekend. But instead, they're going to Foxborough to play New England, and that's not TV.
Only a few teams have been able to beat the Patriots in the playoffs, but you see the teams that have been able to do it, the Ravens, the Giants, and as well as the Jets. The formula is to create turnovers and get pressure on Tom Brady. We all know J.J. Watt is a phenomenal pass rusher, one of, if not the best pass rushers in the league. He always swats down those passes from the quarterbacks. Do you believe that the Texans have the pieces to slow down Brady and the Pats on Sunday?
Well, I think they can. The problem is they are the quintessential do what we do type of team, meaning that the Texans don't change their game plan from week to week. Okay, well, the Patriots are a game plan team. They change up. They don't do the same thing week in, week out. So you can never really zero in on what it is they like to do. Where the Texans, conversely, they blitz. They particularly play this one coverage called cover one. It's a man-to-man coverage when you rush five. They're almost in that coverage 50% of the time. Well, here's the thing, all right? When you're playing the New England Patriots, and they pretty much know half the time you're going to be in a certain coverage, they will kill you. I mean, part of what makes it tough on Tom is disguising, is making him think, showing him one thing, and at the last second doing something completely different. That's any quarterback, but that's particularly Tom Brady. If he knows what you're going to be in, snap in, snap out, he'll kill you. And so I don't see the Texans all of a sudden changing what they've done all year long. And so I think that being the case, they're just stubborn. That's how they do it. I think it's going to be a long day for them.
You went up against Tom Brady in practice for all these years. What's Brady like this week going into a big playoff game in practice?
He's so dialed in. He's so focused. For a guy that's got it all, I mean, it's like, come on, God, really? You have to give one guy everything? The looks, the wife, the talent. I mean, he does everything great. He's such a good guy. You think he has so many other distractions that he just, it's like, you think he gets tired of practicing, that he loses focus. He doesn't. I mean, he just gets hyper-focused. He zones in. He is, it means so much to him. It really does. And so he doesn't care that, they throttled the Texans a month ago. That doesn't matter. He thinks these guys are the best team that he's in the league right now. That's how he approaches every game. It doesn't matter what they did last week or last month to this team. They know they're in for a big challenge. At least that's why they approach it. That's how they act.
Two more questions right before we let you go as we're talking to Ted Johnson. Ted, when I had Kevin Falk on the show during his playing days, I asked him which one out of the three were his favorites in the Super Bowls, and he said the next one. And then Joe Andruzzi was on the show, and he said, well, I'm retired now, so I can't next one you. And he said 2001 was his favorite Super Bowl. I also had Falk back on after his retirement. He told me, one was a very special Super Bowl to him. Out of the three that you won with the Patriots being a part of that dynasty, you're retired now. Which one was your favorite?
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't know that about Joe and K. Falk, but it's definitely the first one. We were 14-point dogs to the greatest show on turf. Came out of nowhere. I'm close with Drew Bledsoe. I'm glad. Drew went through a tough deal. He lost his starting role to Tom Brady because of Mo Lewis. Put him out of the game earlier in the season. So,
did anyone think Brady was going to be able to come in there and do the job when Bledsoe goes down? Was everyone looking at Belichick saying you're nuts to continue to go with this guy?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I mean, he was, Tom, the one thing about Tom, though, he moved from, fourth string, third string in camp all the way to second string. So at the beginning of camp, or beginning of the season, he had earned, a backup role. So, look, Belichick knows what he's doing. He sees things that we as players don't necessarily see. He saw something in Tom. No, he didn't see something in Tom when he drafted him because, let's face it, Tom was a sixth-round draft pick. So part of it's a lot of luck, too, now. Don't kid yourself. And, to a man, he would admit that if he was being totally honest with you. But, I don't think anybody saw that coming, Zach.
Before we let you go, CBS Sports Radio, I was listening to the show the other day. You also do some work down in Houston. I'm actually good friends with Eric Spitz. My pops worked at WFAN Radio, so him and Eric Spitz, the program director of the new CBS Sports Radio station, go way back. Tell me a little bit what you're doing now on the radio. It's great stuff. I loved the show the other night.
Oh, I appreciate that. That was my first. That was the first time we did that show. I came this summer and started. They asked me to do maybe you want to do a little bit of weekend hosting. This past summer here at 610 in Houston at KILT, and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. And so I got more and more hours. The football season comes, and I tell you what, it was only 3 weeks ago, Zach, my station manager grabbed the stool down here. He's like, hey, you got a national show with Josh Ennis on CBS Sports Radio. I was like, say what? Are you kidding me? I had no idea that they were even, had no clue that they were even considering me, that was even being talked about. And I'm like, so what does that mean? He goes, no. I go, so a lot more people are going to be listening to me now? I was like, yeah, I'd say so. So I'm like, well, that's cool. So I appreciate the kind words. You know, Josh, I work with Josh. He's kind of crazy down here. He's one of those guys, you either love him or you hate him. He's fun to work with. He'll challenge you. He's out there and some of his thinking, but we had fun. You know, for the first time, I thought it went really well. But I appreciate you listening. Yeah, we're on 6 to 10 every Sunday night, CBS Sports Radio, the nationwide network, and it's 6 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm looking forward to that going forward.
Ted, I appreciate the time. This was fun. Let's get you on again real soon. Don't be a stranger to the show. Best of luck with your health, and it should be a good game on Sunday.
All right, Zach. My pleasure. Anytime, buddy.